welcome to episode 2 of the Hollywood Knitter Podcast. My name is Allison and I'll be your host. You can find me as Allison1031 on all the social media, including my favorites, Ravelry and Instagram. So I'm going to start off today with thank yous. Thank you. There was such a great support and outpouring for my first episode. It was really awesome. Especially new people and returning people, or people who'd only ever heard my podcast and never met me, and people who do know me. It was awesome. Thank you guys so much. I'm really hoping that this format will be something that I can do and be easy and be quick for me, though it takes a little, I'm sure I'll get quicker as I go. That's kind of where we're going at. I've already had to, this is my second or third try because my cat was being a little needy because I've been gone a while, and so she's all about being next to me. I'm sure she'll be back. So let's go right into the knitting. I'm going to talk about a little knitting today, a bit of gossip, some of my upcoming travel plans. Starting off with the knitting, I have an FO. I have a Co-Pilot cowl by Dominique Trad, and I knit this in the House Gnome Acres House Gnome in the Gimli colorway, which is, you know, the creams and the coffee browns and the light browns. And the pattern itself is pretty easy. It's just some garter stitch in between with some lace work. And I thought I was gonna do 4 sections of the lace work because I had enough yarn for it, but it would have been too wide. My cowl ended up being 9 inches wide by 58 inches in diameter, which, let me throw it on, I think makes a pretty decent size. So if you want to wear it down and I stand up, it would probably be a little before my waist, but I always kind of wrap mine twice. And so you'd end up with kind of like this perfect. And because it's fingering weight and really thin and light, like it's so drapey and easy. And it was just really easy to knit. It was really easy to memorize. I took it as a travel project. You know, it took me, I don't know, 6 weeks or so to knit it because it was my travel project. And I ended up using 370 yards roughly, about 80% of the skein, so about 80 grams. And I still don't know who it's gonna be for. It's gonna go to my diff box. And the only other thing to really talk about this, which was really awesome, is I learned a new bind off. So when it was time to bind off, I Googled, you know, stretchy bind off on cowl, because it's always a problem with cowls. I find very hard for me to get my cast on edge and my cast off edge, my bind off edge, to be the same. Usually one appears a little tighter than the other, and this one, they are really close. And what I ended up doing is I tried a few and I ripped them out. So I tried the one I usually do in my socks, which is like a slip knit. Then I tried Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off, which I don't think I do very often, but it was very stretchy, but I didn't like the edge because it basically creates, Jenny's is taller. It's like 2 rows, and I wanted each of the ones to look the same, and I only had 3 ridges of garter here, so I didn't want like another 2 rows over here, or this one would have been too wide. So in randomly Googling, I came across a page where a woman was actually promoting her book of cast-offs, which I can't remember what it was because I didn't really look at it, but as one of them, she's like, oh, I'll show you how to do one of the cast-offs, and it was called the Icelandic cast-off. So it was one you can do on the needles. It's not a sewn bind off or anything like that, and it was, I'm going to explain it, but it'll make more sense if you do it or look at it. But you took your needle and you put it through the loop on your left needle like you were gonna do something to it, and you picked up the front side of the stitch of the next one in, and then you did a knit stitch in that, and then passed the first slip stitch over. So the mechanics of it were really easy. Once you got to it, it was pretty fast, and it created a very stretchy bind off without being loose and kind of flappy. So I was really happy with it. I'm gonna put that in my little store for cast-offs later. I might even actually try it on my socks or something like that, or necklines and sweaters. I think it'd make a really good one for sweaters too, because it's very neat and very reminiscent of almost kind of like a simple bind off in terms of how it looks. but stretchy. So again, the Co-Pilot Cowl by Dominique Trad. And if you're looking for an easy cowl pattern, it's free in fingering, I highly recommend it. It just took less than 1 skein of sock yarn. So that's my only FO. On the needles, we'll start with the new project because it's non-controversial. So when I cast off my Co-Pilot, I knew that I'd wanted to cast on another pair of socks. I have a goal of trying to make a pair of socks for a Valentine's Day gift for my boyfriend because he was such an awesome sock recipient over Christmas. He loved them. I'm like, okay, I gotta make more socks for this man. So after Christmas, and I guess I'll talk about it now, but I'll talk about it after and I talk about what I got. But I purchased some yarn specifically for these socks, and I used an Etsy seller that had been in my favorites for a long time called Lanitim Ex Machina, and they're Finnish. They're out of Helsinki, and I had favorited this a long time ago because her yarns are just gorgeous and dynamic. And I happened across this yarn, and it's called, because she also does geeky yarns, it's Helm's Deep. I'm assuming it's inspired by Lord of the Rings, and it's kind of like these burgundy and gray, almost bordering on a, you know, a red with slightly pink overtones in the gray, and it's a variegated, and I just thought it worked really well. I tried another yarn that I bought too, and I didn't like it as much as this one. So I got it finally. It took about 3 weeks to get here, which I think is pretty decent. It was on sale when I bought it, so I think with shipping, I bought 2 skeins, one of this and one of, I'll show you after, and it was 25 euros. That included the shipping for each. So roughly what you pay in the US. And I'm knitting it toe up like I always do. I'm not sure what the stitch pattern is going to be. Because it's just a variegated, I didn't want to just do plain like I would with striping. So I'm going to do some kind of really simple knit purl pattern on it. And I had started one which was like a knit 3, purl 1, knit the next row, knit 1, purl 1. But I think I needed a little more mindless than that because this is going to be a travel project that I need to finish quickly. And so I need a little more knitting in it. So I haven't gotten very far in the pattern. I mean, I've probably only done like 4 or 5 rows. So I'll rip it back and then figure out what my pattern is going to be. And then make these. And these are going to be a size 12 men's. And I hope to finish them by Valentine's Day. So I have 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Should be doable. And it is in, I believe this is an Erin Lane bag that I picked up. Now, the big project is my sweater. And I had a bit of a setback since my last episode. I had showed you my beautiful sweater, which is the Shell Seeker by Heidi Kermeyer that I'm doing in Miss Babs. And I showed you all of that stuff I had done last time, and I don't know if you noticed, but it is entirely different. I had done 17 inches or so, and then tried it on to kind of see, I was checking length actually, and what happened is I had too much fabric right here in the chest. Now this is a Positive Ease sweater, but it's worsted weight, and I just couldn't live with it. It was too much. Like I could pinch big things of fabric here, and kind of how I like to wear my sweaters is pretty similar to this, almost negative ease, and I up here, and then they can have more room down around my belly. So I hemmed and hawed, not that long, and then I was like, all right, this is a sweater, and I learned my lesson that if I don't like it when I'm doing it, I'm not going to learn to like it, and I was better off just biting the bullet, ripping back, and redoing it. So that's what I did. I spent a few hours ripping it all back and making it into 2 balls and kind of made them in big circles. And then started again modifying the front. And so one of the things when I went back and looked at the pattern that I realized was my problem is the original pattern calls for a rolled neck, kind of like a boat line, which is why there was a lot of stitches. There was actually, it started off with more stitches in the front than the back to kind of create that drapey boat line, which I didn't want. I wanted just a little ribs. So I took all of those stitches out, started with less stitches at the top, and then started decreasing. And I'm now kind of mismatching my sizes I'm following. I re-measured my gauge. I'm only off by stitch, but that mattered in this particular. And then my row gauge is a little off, so I have to adjust there too. So I'm making a lot more adjustments, which I'll put into my project page when I do it. And then when I started reading it, I had been doing 4-row stripes, and then I just decided to do the 2-row stripes, which is what the pattern is. And I'm really liking it. I think it looks really, really good. I just tried it on because I didn't let it go much beyond the boobs, and it's working really well. I really like the top now, and then I'm gonna be having it looser right around the belly, and then I should have enough for my pocket, which is something I was worried about now because I've decreased some of the fabric. Still want to finish it by Valentine's Day to wear on my Chicago trip, so if worst comes to worst, I can be knitting it on the train as I'm getting there. But as you see, I've already separated for the arms and I'm into the body, and that's a pretty fast part. So I'm anticipating I'll kind of be where I was probably in the next day or so. So if I keep knitting, because worsted weight sweaters are pretty fast, if I keep knitting kind of monogamously on this at night, I should be fine to finish it. So that is my Shell Seeker by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I'll let you know how it turns out. Hopefully we don't have any more snafus that make me have to rip it back. I wasn't really sad about it. I'm really a process knitter, so that didn't bother me. But what I've learned more and more is I have to be happy with the project or I won't wear it, and then it's kind of like a big waste of the knitting. Obviously makes sense, right? So I really want this sweater and I want it to fit well, and despite doing a gauge swatch sometimes for me is knitting some of it, trying it on, and then figuring out how to modify it. And sometimes that's the way it goes. So that's all the knitting I have. I haven't worked on my blanket at all because I finished my 3 inches. I don't get to start again until February 1st. And so I only have these 2 projects on the needle, and I'm going to be focusing on them because they both have those Valentine's Day deadlines. Monogamy, which isn't that hard for me. So a bit of gossip. Last weekend, I traveled to Yuma, Arizona. I drove by myself down on Friday afternoon and stayed until Monday, which was a holiday in the US. So I was there for the 2 full days to hang out with my boyfriend, which was fun actually. I like being in hotel rooms. I like being in travel. He hates it. And so when I go down there, we just kind of hang out. It makes it much more palatable for him, and I like the travel. And I was just thinking on the way that it's a lovely drive. Like, the thing that struck me about Yuma is I live in LA, and we are, per capita or per square mile, one of the densest places in the US anyways. Not the world by far, but walking in Yuma, and I did a lot of walking because that's my exercise of choice these days, and so I wanted to get 4 to 5 miles in every day, was just the wide open spaces. I walked through a lot of like farmlands and fields. I walked along the Colorado River, and I just tried to be in the moment and look up and look at the sky and look at the fact that I could see miles because it's very flat. You could see the mountains in the distance in the desert, and kind of marvel at the fact that I was walking through these fields of lettuce, which in essence is a very desert area. It's kind of crazy. They have a lot of farm rights, I think, so they have a fair amount of water. So we did that. We hung out at the hotel. We actually have some friends down there now because my boyfriend has gone so frequently that we've met a few times at one of the bars that we frequent when we go down there, which is walking distance. So we met up with them and we watched the football game. Go USC. USC. Go Patriots. My goodness. My 2 football teams are USC and the Patriots. So that was awesome. And then randomly sitting at the bar, I was sitting next to another Patriots fan, and she asked where I was from. I said, oh, I'm from Massachusetts, da-da-da. And we were from the same place in Massachusetts. Like, she had lived there for years with her husband. And I was like, wow, this is a really, really small world. But you can meet people anywhere. Not a knitter, but they were fascinated by all the knitting I was doing while we were watching the game. So that was nice. So that was my travel, and I came back, and my cat missed me. She has somebody check in on her while I'm gone, but she basically hasn't left my side for the last 2 days and has been a little clingy, to say the least. She's usually not, but she's not going to be happy because, again, I am getting ready to leave tomorrow for Vegas. I have my whole family coming. They are actually going to land in Vegas like in the next half hour, but I'm not going out until tomorrow. I'm going to drive out around noontime. So I have another, 4-hour drive ahead of me, and I'll be staying out there with all the family until Monday. And this will be an interesting trip. I had somebody ask, I was like, oh, well, do you gamble, or what's your vice in Vegas? And the truth is I do gamble. I don't necessarily have a favorite. I gamble with what everyone is doing. So if I go with someone who likes slots, I play slots. I like to play poker. I like to play craps. This trip, my grandmother's going and my aunts, and they like to play bingo. So we'll be playing bingo. Be doing hopefully a lot of walking. I need to get a lot of walking in, and going and seeing the Strip and downtown, and we might do some hiking. I do like to go to Red Rocks. It's really close to Vegas. It's like a half hour outside the city, and you can do this great hiking. So I'm just sort of playing it by ear. We have a big group, which sometimes, makes everything like herding cats, like meals and deciding what people are doing. But I'm hoping to just spend quality time with the family, various members that I don't get to see very often, my grandmother, and having a good time and knitting like crazy on the socks. I am only bringing the socks. I am not bringing the sweater because I'm not going to be in the room that often to knit on it. And, a worsted weight sweater is pretty heavy, but I am going to be bringing my socks. And so I'm hoping to get a lot done, at least almost a sock done. Is crossing my fingers that that's what I'm doing. We'll see. It's always good to have goals. Then after that, in 2 weeks, I have my train trip. My train trip is over Valentine's Day weekend. And I just find out I might actually be doing a road trip to Texas between then. Not this weekend, but the weekend after. My boyfriend's uncle passed away, and so they're talking about maybe doing a road trip out for the services. And so I may or may not go, depending on if there's room in the car or not, or if they need me to drive, or etc. So that's a little more travel than I needed, but that's the way it goes. And then I have my knitting trips, Knockers and Zombie Apocalypse, and all the other ones that I'll talk about as I get closer. Eek. All right, let me make sure that was all I had to talk about today. And everyone say hello to the kitty, if you can see her. She's calmed down after being a little spastic. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And, I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to give one little tip about driving. So I have the long 4-hour drive to Yuma and back, and I do listen to a lot of podcasts. And one of the things, as having a newer car, is I have Bluetooth I can play. And so I play my audio podcast through my iPod through the Bluetooth, but I also play my video casts through the Bluetooth. And so you can hook up, if you either listen or watch your video casts on a tablet or on a phone, you can also connect that to Bluetooth and then play the video, and then the sound plays through your speakers in your car. And that's how I keep up on my video podcasts when I'm traveling. I don't watch them. I close it so I can't see them, because that would be distracting while you drive. But then I can still listen to them. And so it's like an audio podcast in a video format, and I can still catch up with people. And I just wanted to give that little tip if you've never thought to do that. Sometimes when I get behind in my podcasts, like I've been saving my podcasts this week, video podcasts, so that I can listen to them on my drive either to Vegas or back from Vegas on Monday. So that's all I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching my second episode. And I hope to be back with you in another two weeks or so, and give you some updates on what's going on, show you my sweater, see if I made it. So until then, I leave you with, that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are in it. Bye, everybody.